The other one had a major issue for the first 10 minutes. So hopefully this'll be just easier to follow, easier to deal with. I'm going to wait before I get into too much. I want the live audience to tell me if things are working the way they're supposed to. If you're watching this after the fact, then you should be good. So I'm just waiting to hear from people in the live comments if I'm good. If you're watching after the fact, then, links in the description for the timestamps. There's a major delay. Waiting. Gonna keep on waiting. Suppose while I wait, I could send out the new link. On Twitter. That'd be good of me. I believe it is working, I am told. That's a good sign. So, alright, let's go ahead and talk about what we will be talking about this week. There we go. We're going to start off by talking about the ManHunter Oversized Special, number 1. Followed by Secret Empire, number 9. Black Hammer, number 12. Batman Beyond, number 11. Renato Jones, Freelancer, number 3. Sheena, number 1, or number 0. Sheena, Queen of the Jungle, number 0. And Black Panther, Back to Africa, for Trade Talk this week, as we conclude. Alright. So everyone tells me I'm good on the live stream. Let's start this off. But not talking about the book, but by talking about this ad on the back. This is one of the Wonder Woman Blu-ray posters, but this is a poster that was released for Wonder Woman in the lead up to the film. And I just wanted to talk about it because it bothers me in how obviously photoshopped it is. Like, I mean, sure, the glowy lasso, obviously, but like, this was clearly an image of her holding a sword, and then they turned it into a lasso. I will bet money that she was initially supposed to be holding a sword, not a lasso. And this bothers me. Just like the way she's gripping it, that's a sword grip, not a lasso. It has weight to it. Anyway, so ManHunter Special number 1. This is another in the series of Jack Kirby tribute specials. This one I picked up because I saw ManHunter and I saw a red guy with blue gloves and a metal face. I'm like, holy shit, Jack Kirby created the Manhunters from Green Lantern? I didn't know that, and I'm a huge Green Lantern fan. It's because he didn't. Jack Kirby had his fingers in a lot of pots, and basically DC is just throwing out anything that he even remotely touched. Seems to be the general idea here. So ManHunter has an interesting history, but this design and the fact that it looks like the Green Lantern Manhunters is not an accident. So I'll talk a little bit about the history of that because I found that more interesting than anything that happens in this book. ManHunter was a detective noir comic that came out in the 40s that Kirby worked on briefly. They came back to the character with Joe Simon and Jack Kirby a couple decades later to do the revamped version of the character, and that's the version we're reading here. And then comics being comics, they kept doing stories with him on and off, and eventually one version of ManHunter realized that he got his costume, his abilities from the intergalactic police force that predated the Green Lantern Corps, known as the ManHunters. So it was created retroactively, and they used the Jack Kirby costume design as a model to do the ManHunters in the rest of the comics. So that was the history that I looked into and found more fascinating than the book itself. This is another issue where it's like, it's clearly a love letter to Jack Kirby. Just the way these guys are drawn in here. Ignore Batman, Harley Quinn. The way that this is drawn is just in love with it. That's such a Kirby look. Even from the cover, it's a very Kirby look with the clenched fists, very blocky clenched fingers. That's just something that they do to death with Jack Kirby, and they clearly love it. So that element of it I enjoyed wholeheartedly. The rest of it, the art's cool. It's neat to see such tribute paid to Jack Kirby in pure visual style. Not just the way the characters are drawn, but the way this is shaded. This very reminiscent of how a lot of Jack's art was colored and shaded. And so I find that really, really cool, too. But there's a lot of other stuff in here where I'm just like, it's alright. It's got its moments. But the Manhunter side of this story did not impress me very much. Here's the thing, though. A significantly more famous and more well-known and loved creation of Jack Kirby's that DC not only has the rights to, but continues to tell stories with, besides the New Gods, is Etrigan the Demon. Why wasn't he the main story? That just seems incredibly obvious, right? Like, I don't understand why that didn't happen. Why wasn't it decided, yeah, we'll use Etrigan as the main character of the book, and then we'll put a backup with Manhunter. We'll have him come across Manhunter along the way. But to just randomly throw, like, to sell the book on Manhunter and then give you a backup with Etrigan is a weird choice. Now, admittedly, the Etrigan issue is much less, is much more of a modern book in art style than the Manhunter story. Like, you look at the Manhunter story and you got these 6-panel grids, 6 or 4-panel grids, just a lot of detail played to those things. Anyway, Robert Emmett is asking something about Renato Jones. Let me just answer that real quick. I don't know if the parody ads are in the trade. That's something I'm unsure of. Sorry, I can't help you there. Anyway, but yeah, just the way the Manhunter story is structured and shown is very reminiscent of, like, not only Kirby, but classic comics where the panels are just, the sequential art of it. Whereas when you get to the Etrigan story, the character models and designs are certainly reminiscent of Kirby, but not as, whoa, that's totally Jack Kirby's style really being referenced heavily. But also, just the way that it's shown is very modern comic book visual storytelling. Like, I love the sequence of this old man entering this cathedral or whatever it is, and instead of paneling it out, we just show him in different parts of the room as he gets closer to the reader. Let's see here. Kuma Ranger says, with the books you've read so far, which of these artists you've seen closer to Kirby's art style? You know, it's interesting because I feel they're all doing something very different, but I will say the artist on the ManHunter book is the one most closely just doing, this is me trying to do Jack Kirby. Story and layouts by Keith Giffen, art by Mark Buckingham. So, like, everyone else is doing something more in tribute or, like, trying to put the same amount of love and detail into their stuff without necessarily just doing Kirby. This one seems to be the most Kirby. But, like, to get back to my point about this, as we look at the paneling in this Etrigan story, we have Jason Blood breaking the paneling. We have the... I gotta use my ring finger. Sorry, I'm getting used to this new system, and I'm used to it being reversed. But, like, we have Jason Blood breaking the paneling, then we have diagonal paneling to do things that, like, you can't really see the panel lines. It's just the natural planes of the world, of the ground in this battle scene, creating the panel break. So, I don't know, it's much more of a modern comic book than something that looks like it's trying to be like Kirby. This just feels like a story you could tell with Etrigan and Jason Blood, you know? And that just, I don't know, that's just all I got with this, is, it's so weird, I haven't talked about the stories at all. In the ManHunter story, ManHunter's beaten the living snot out of some criminals, and Sandman and Sandy, the boy, the golden lad, I think they call him, excuse me, don't like how violent he's being. So they beat him up, or fight him, and it doesn't quite work out for them, and he gets away. And Sandy, the golden boy, they show up, they fight him, they're like having an argument with you're being too cruel. He realizes that he's a little outmatched, so he gets a ruse and manages to escape. And then after he's gone, he's like, well, maybe they did have a point, though. And then here's a mugger, and he goes, well, fuck that noise, and goes to, like, kill the mugger, I guess. And so that, I don't know, not a particularly interesting story. And then we get this Etrigan story, which is about Jason Blood seeking out a priest to perform an exorcism because he can't deal with having the demon Etrigan bound to his soul. I will say, I was really happy to see the full poem of Etrigan, the full poem to summon Etrigan in this, because normally we only hear or see "Gone, gone, the form of man, arise the demon Etrigan," and here we get the full poem, and I really like that. Change, change, O form of man, release the might from fleshy mire, boil the blood in heart of fire. Gone, gone, the form of man, rise the demon Etrigan. That was really cool. I really enjoyed that. Because I didn't know there was more to the poem, so that was really neat to see. I'm assuming that has to be referenced. You don't just throw something like that in a book like this if you're not directly calling back to the original poem. You wouldn't just add that. I'm not going to confirm because I don't know a ton about the history of Etrigan either. I don't want to put on airs that I'm this huge Jack Kirby fan. But I would be surprised if that's not how it was originally intended. But anyway, so Jason Blood calls this priest. The priest gives him an elixir, potion, whatever, but it turns out just to be a drug to try to get Jason Blood knocked out so that the priest can transform into a demon that he's bonded to and kill Etrigan/Jason Blood. But he's able to he's able to get the poem out and turn the tables, and Etrigan defeats the guy. Talking about how he's so angry at Blood for keeping him locked up for years and years. And Jason Blood wakes back up and he sees on the wall Etrigan has inscribed something. Change, O form of man, but not the curse of twins condemned. To live in peace or favor or forever damned, Jason Blood and Etrigan. I don't know. I thought that was a neat idea. I thought that was a neat story. And then we get 2 short Jack Kirby stories in the back, neither of which I particularly liked. I like the second one a lot more than the first. The first one is strange. It's called The Face Behind the Mask. It's about this guy who meets like an actress who's just, for whatever reason, wearing bandages on her face. And he can't figure out why she's doing it. But they go out on dates and she won't take them off. And then eventually his father convinces her, alright, fine, show us what you've got. And she takes off the bandages and reveals the face of an old woman because she's really 300 years old and is an immortal that takes a potion that wears off after just a couple hours to keep her young. And there's like a guy, the sorcerer, that gave her this elixir hundreds of years ago. Blah, blah, blah. If you give the guy $1 million, he'll give you this immortality juice. So the guy's father sets up this deal to go, meet with him and hand over the money. And dude's all like, and then all of a sudden girl like backs out at the last minute. She goes, no, it was all just makeup. I was just I just couldn't go through with it. But it was like a whole deal we had worked out. And like, this is the weird thing about Jack Kirby's writing and why I don't feel that he is as strong a writer as some people like to imagine. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pages of setup for this reveal. And then on the final page we have 1, 2, 3, 2.5 panels before we get to the reveal that she's an old woman. Or that she's not an old woman, she's not an immortal. She wipes off the makeup, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 panels to resolve the whole story. We spent so much time. This is just poor pacing, right? We spend so much time setting up this, weird story, and then no time concluding it, so that the conclusion we get is just nowhere near as interesting or worth the payoff. I thought that was a really, really poor story. It looks good. It's not even really got the things about Jack Kirby's art, though, that I like. It's just, it's kind of just like old comics. It's pretty minimalist, especially for Jack Kirby. There's not a lot going on. The backgrounds aren't, super fascinating. Like, just things like that don't look particularly good for Jack Kirby, and the thing I love about Jack Kirby again are his environments, the way he'll create just a fucking gorgeous room for one panel. That's not here, and he's even resorting to just solid color background, and that's always something that there's nothing wrong with doing that, but and then again, 4 panels to resolve everything. That's a little much. The second story is almost like a children's book, which I really enjoyed. It was fun. It's called Just Imagine the Rocket Lanes of Tomorrow. And it's just kind of Jack Kirby imagining this gorgeous science fiction-y future about, technology has basically solved every big problem on the planet. And it's just like little scenes that he's drawn with that incredible Kirby detail that I really love. and then brief descriptions of this is what it's like in this world. This is going on in this world. They have robots, and there's a tunnel through the earth that allows you to go from one continent to another in just minutes. It's okay, cool. It's fun. It looks really neat. It really it captures the hell out of your imagination. So I thought that was cool. Pretty fun issue. Like I feel like I'm complaining about it a lot, but like it's just a lot of the other Kirby stuff that's come out so far has just been better. How am I doing on quality, guys? Everything looking good so far? I'm just curious how things have been proceeding as we've gone on and on. And I'm also curious... Ooh, that's not good. Okay. Interesting. I'm gonna wait to hear from people about how the quality of the stream is before I continue. So if you guys could please just tap something down for me real quick, that would be very appreciated. I am very tired. I worked really hard today, and I didn't go to bed till like 2 a.m. last night. So things are less than ideal right now. Oh, man, I think we are very behind in the stream. There's a whole conversation going on about the Harley Quinn Batman movie. That did not look good. That looks like whatever the opposite of good is. Okay. Grady Childs tells me the stream is fine, so I'm going to continue with everybody's favorite topic, Secret Empire by Nick Spencer. Man. This continues to just not be any fun to read. Like, I don't even have anything expressly negative to say about this issue, except that I didn't think it was good. Man. Like, this isn't insulting, I'll give it that. There's a big battle, which is kind of... Alright, like, here's the epic scale of this battle being waged in DC. Alright? I'm gonna go page earlier. No, couple pages earlier. Here's our establishing shot of DC. There's the White House. There's some big, giant, monstrosity, evil lair ship. And right down here in the corner is some smoke and clouds. That was our location shot, and here's the battle that is going on. Now let's talk about visual storytelling. What is your eye drawn to in this first panel? The gigantic fucking ship. What is your eye drawn to next? The White House. The Washington Monument. Because you're in DC. What don't you even fucking notice? The cloud of smoke in the background. Like, I was noticing the tentacles of the monstrosity in front of the White House before I noticed this shit. This is ridiculous. So, like, that just, and then it's not helped because like, you have all that, and then it's this, it cuts to inside this monstrosity of Zemo and Steve, and, like, look at this panel of Zemo and Steve. They're like, oh, buddy, buddy, and Zemo's like, hey, I captured Black Panther for you, and we're gonna murder his ass. And, okay, fine, sure, whatever. But then, like, the next page is saying, okay, take Black Panther away. Sir, the mutants are here to, like, negotiate or whatever. And he's like, well, it took them long enough. Well, with everything going on outside, they had to dodge the fighting. Speaking of which, sir, shouldn't we get you to a safer location? I'm like, what fighting? What fighting? What is it? He's like, no, I'm right where I want to be. And then you get an ad and you turn the page, and then you finally get this, and I'm like, hold the fucking phone. This was going on the whole time? Oh, man. Man, that's just like, okay, ignoring all the politics and the fucking Bill and Ted levels of storytelling. That's just bad writing in visual storytelling, right? Okay, so anyway, shit's going down. Emma Frost is there to negotiate on behalf of the mutants, and Steve Rogers tells her, oh, well, it doesn't fucking matter. This was always going to be a temporary ceasefire, so now I'm going to take my cosmic cube fragment from you. And Emma's like, well, I promised Magneto that no mutant will ever bow to Hydra, so you're fucked. And so Magneto just shows up out of nowhere and destroys the thingy thing that they're all in. Okay, cool. Whatevs. And then there's a battle. People are released. There's an attempt at comedy. Thor decides, hey, maybe I shouldn't be a bad guy anymore, and he switches sides mid-battle. Whatever. You're still evil, Thor. I'm sorry. There's this attempt at humor with Taskmaster and Black Ant where they let the young heroes out. I didn't really think it was that funny. Vision shares her father's virus, and that's supposed to, like, allow him to take back control of his body. That's not how viruses work. Like, that's not how they work. Like, if your computer has a virus and it spreads that virus to another computer, that doesn't, like, make the virus less active on your computer. It copies and clones itself. So, like, here's this exchange. Viv, get away. It's too dangerous. I can't fight it for long. It's okay. I can do it. I can't get rid of it completely, but I can help you by spreading it around. So her solution is to spread the virus. No, that's not how viruses work. Like, just basic understanding of computers, right? Ugh. Robert Emmett's talking about Secret Empire. Let me read that. Hey, here's an idea, guys. If you talk about the books that I'm reading about as opposed to having whatever conversations about Linkara, then I'll actually bring up your comments. Robert Emmett says, I don't hate Secret Empire, I'm just let down. When it started, I was pumped for it. Then I realized too late the implications for Steve as a character, that after Las Vegas, there is no satisfying way to salvage his character without negating the story. I don't... You know... Pretty much, right? Like, I was cautious as hell and getting to the point where I didn't think Nick Spencer could write when Secret Empire started. Secret Empire has confirmed that for me. Nick Spencer does not know what to do with political commentary in a story. He does not know how to balance that commentary, and he damn sure doesn't know how to do a comic book event. Because, like, he just fundamental lack of respect or thought for characters. Viv and the Vision are computers, so he has a virus. Well, she's gonna take the virus from him, and then they'll be able to beat it together. It's not how viruses work. Wakanda's got a game plan, and they almost defeat Hydra, but then Dr. Faustus walks in, and they weren't expecting that. Well, Wakanda would be expecting that. And if you're gonna have... I'm not gonna say you cannot write a story where Wakanda is conquered. I think you get very close to missing the point of what makes Wakanda, what makes Black Panther interesting by having it be conquered or defeated. But you have to, like, it has to have major implications and not just be, oh, we're going to show how powerful this like threat is by having it defeat Wakanda. That's undermining Wakanda for a cheap writing trick. That's what this was. Great Child says, hey, and I need to ask, why don't you just not buy any more issues? I mean, if you don't do that, then sales will tank, and I'll send Marvel a message that the comic readers hate this shit. Totally fair. At this point, I feel like people are enjoying hearing me talk about it, and I'm really, really curious to see what the hell Nick Spencer thinks he is doing. Like, that's why I'm on the book. Still, is I'm already on the train, I might as well see it crash. But yeah, there's just this sense of, oh, well, fuck this character's universe and implications. We're just gonna stomp all over that to establish how big a threat Hydra Cap and the new Hydra is. Bucky shows up, takes out Zemo, and Black Panther helps. Commander Carter takes out Festivus and wrecks all of Steve's planes. And Zola puts Captain America in an Iron Man suit that's powered by a partial cosmic cube. Dreamland Steve Rogers sees all the evil that's happening, and then we get the imagery of that. That is what we're left with. Yeah. This was just a bad idea. It's like, it's not even insulting at this point, it's just poorly written. Alright, let's go ahead and go on to Black Hammer, number 12. Hey, a well-written issue. This is an interesting one, because this is the first issue that entirely takes place outside of the farm and the town that all the characters are trapped in. And I really like that about it. That makes it a really strong and interesting commentary. This is a flashback issue, though, and it's all about Black Hammer's daughter growing up. What's her name? Miss Weber. Lucy. It's all about Black Hammer's daughter Lucy and the kinds of things she went through growing up. And that's interesting. It's, her dad died when she was very young, and so she was, like, raised being told, don't talk about what your father did, all that stuff. But, like, she's the daughter of a hero. Like, look at... I thought this was... If we want to talk about effective location reveals and storytelling, I thought this was a pretty good setup. We have a guy we get told the location of Spiral City 10 years ago. We have a guy talking, and he's obviously in like a bigger area, but you can't quite tell what it is. There's like a mourning, there's black ribbons, so you know it's a funeral. And he's telling you, I was a superhero too, but I've come to pay my respects to a group of the bravest men and women Spiral City and the world has ever seen. And then you get this page turn, and you're in just the middle of the city post-superhero battle. Abraham Slam, Golden Gale, Barbalian, Colonel Weird, Madam Dragonfly, and Black Hammer. 3 days ago, they saved us all. Right here in the streets of Spiral City, they fought and defeated Anti-God. So you're at their memorial service in the middle of this ruined city, where, you know, there's probably all these rescue efforts and everything, but you just get the sense they took the time to stop and have a memorial for these guys for saving the world. That is effective visual storytelling and pacing. But anyway, so like Lucy grows up and we get this career day moment where everyone talks about what their parents did. And she's like, oh, well, my father's dead. Like, yeah, but what did he do before he died? I'll get back to that. So it's career day. Here's a good joke. I love this joke. So it's career day at school, and little Johnny gets up and he says, my mom's works as a teller in a bank. And the teacher says, okay, what does your father do? Little Johnny says, oh, well, he's dead. And the teacher says, oh, well, what did he do before he died? And Johnny goes, that. No, too dark for you? I love that joke. Anyway, so little Lucy is at career day, and she's asked, what did your father do before he died? And you just get these great visuals of all these like epic moments from the career of Black Hammer that we've never seen, and then this little lone panel of her down here saying, oh, he was a cook. That's like really tragic and sad, and the next scene is this fight she's having with her mother about not being able to allow people to know what she was like, what her father was. That was really cool. And then we get flash to 2 years ago, and she meets up with the guy who gave the eulogy, who used to be a superhero, used to be a friend of Black Hammer's, and he gives her a key. She takes the key downtown to this address listed and enters the building and discovers the Hall of Hammer, kind of like a Bat Cave, Fortress of Solitude moment. It's really, really good moment right there. And she's like, oh my god, these are all the cool things my father did, and da-da-da-da-da. And like, in a normal superhero thing, this is the scene where, like you said, you get the message. It's like, you are now this is our family's legacy, and now it falls to you. Like, we see that in different, pulp or superhero stuff all the time. I don't know why I've had headphones on this whole time. I totally don't need them. Anyway, like, that's what we normally get. But instead of video recording and Black Hammer plays, and he tells her, I need you to destroy all of this. If you're seeing this, I'm dead, and I need you to destroy all of this and leave this life behind and never let anyone know about it. Exactly what her mother has always been telling her to do, and that she's been, apparently for years and years, fighting with her mother on. Her father, in his last will and testament, says, destroy everything. I don't want this life for you. I'm glad I was a superhero, but I missed out on a lot doing it, and I don't want you to have that experience. It is a really heartfelt message, and like I love that she's intercut with panels of this recording of her father, and she's just, you know, breaking down in tears. And he says, "Let Black Hammer go." And there's just this one somber panel where she's like crying to herself, and then decides, "No!" Screams it out, and decides to look into what did happen to her father, because she has this unnerving feeling that he's still alive. Here's the cover for next week's issue. Man, sorry, I'm still not used to this new way of looking at it. This is covered next week's issue, and that is Anti-God. So again, we're getting a lot of tribute to all the cosmic comic book stuff. We got like the very dark side, Thanos kind of rock face look, and then we've got the winged helmet thing like Galactus, and you know, all that jazz. So that was kind of cool. Otherwise, solid issue. Always emotional with this book. Never a dull moment with this book. Let's go ahead and move on. Talk about Batman Beyond, number 11. Again, this is an issue where Dan Jurgens seems to like... I think Dan Jurgens just needs to spend a little bit more time, at least with this book, tightening his stuff up. Or maybe just reading more modern comics. I don't know, like by other people, because a lot of this is just repeated information that we already knew from the last issue. And so it's a very light book. Like, things happen in this issue, but I feel like we spend more time retreading what's already happened, what we already know if we've been reading up to this point, than what we learn. And this is a fairly, you know, universal problem a lot of people have had with DC Rebirth, is everything's just kind of summarizing the issue that happened last week, last month, without really getting into, you know, without progressing the story very much. And that certainly seems to be a problem here, and that's annoying the hell out of me. Oh, see you, Robert. So that gets kind of annoying, and it's never been a huge problem with this book for me, but here it most certainly is. Explosions and all kinds of stuff. Character progression happens when Bruce is trying to disarm Damian's nuclear weapons, and one of the League of Assassins members tries to kill him. Damian sees this happening and says, "Stop, he's my father." And the guy's like, "I don't care, I'm not going to listen to you." And so Damian stops fighting Terry to go save Bruce, and that moment gives Terry enough time to, you know, get control of the suit, and blah blah blah. So there's a truce now, implied at least. But Damian still feels like he's gonna, you know, press the button. He needs to do this to fulfill Ra's al Ghul's destiny. But Bruce talks him down, talks him out of it. But instead, the League of Assassins member pushes the button, and so Terry has to put the suit back on and take out these nuclear missiles, or not even nuclear missiles. These what'd they call them? Something like gene bomb, to make sure only the strong survive or whatever. And it's a very Iron Man scene. I like this moment where the suit gives him an oxygen mask, even though it's failing. That's kind of neat. But anyway, they're able to work as a team. Max and Sam take over one of Bruce's satellites and are able to stop a final missile. And then as Terry is falling to Earth, Damian and Bruce have jumped in the Batmobile, and Damian is able to rescue Terry, you know, catch him in midair, all that stuff. there's a new understanding, and Damien says he's not going to fulfill Ra's al Ghul's destiny, but he is still going to work with the League of Shadows, League of Assassins. But he will now stay in touch and get back in touch with his father and try to do some good in the world. It's neat, and there's speculation that, is Justice League Unlimited's final or finale epilogue, is that going to count in this book? There's some pretty clear indications here that it is. Terry and Bruce have this conversation at the end of the story where they're like, you do realize you're softening up in your old age. And Bruce says, I probably should have long before now. It's okay to be a dad, Bruce. Even better to feel like I have 2 sons, Terry. That's a pretty obvious hint that, yeah, epilogue's going to count, and it's going to factor in probably soon, which is weird because Terry has not bulked up to the level that we saw him in the Justice League epilogue episode. But we'll see what happens with that. Wonder Woman, Children of the Gods. A new storyline starts in issue 31. Interesting. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. I mean, I'm excited for it. I'm curious to see what they're going to do with the costume. If they're going to go back to something more like the old suit, or something that blends the new suit with the old suit, or what. 'Cause this is technically supposed to be a prototype for the old suit. Anyway. I don't know. I'm interested to see where this goes. I'm still enjoying the story. It's still been plenty of fun. We'll see what happens as this all continues on. Let's go ahead and move on to Renato Jones, Freelancer number 3. Freelancer number 3. Freelancer number 3. Shadow of the Batman's talking about DCAU and all that stuff. Anyway, yeah, Renato Jones, Freelancer number 3. Alright. So, Kaare Kyle Andrews, I follow him on Twitter, is a neat guy. Has talked about, as a lot of people in the creative field have, has talked about how he feels very frustrated with the current political climate and everything, and especially as a creator, because he tries to write things like the first season of Renato Jones, and he says it himself, was meant to be a fucking satire, but it doesn't read that way because the horrific things that have happened in the world since then, the just blatantly evil of the world is just shocking. And so it's not reading like a satire anymore. It's reading as too direct a pull. And that's driving him nuts as he's trying to write. So here, he just pulls out all the stops and goes for the most incredibly horrific and evil thing that I certainly hope the real world does not top. The president of the book nukes Washington, D.C. That's the end of that story. Mushroom Cloud. Wow. That is one hell of a way to end an issue. I'm pretty sure this is only going to be 2 or 3 more issues, by the way. And in this, I mean, the commentary here is not subtle. It's pretty fucking obvious. You have this conversation, like, you see all these talking heads do the whole Frank Miller thing. with what they're talking about. I'll just read a couple of these. As this White House seems intent on destroying funding to healthcare with no intent of renewal. As suspected, mob boss is appointed to head of the Department of Justice. Yeah. Anyway. So, like, you see all this stuff. Oh, man, they even drew Trump in there. Anyway, you see all this stuff, this, like, you know, news reports going on and on and on, as the president of the book is looking at all of it, and one of his aides is talking to him. Sir, the council is now asking for the head of the Flat Earth Society to lead the climate talks, and a Haitian voodoo occultist to be nominated to the position of Surgeon General. That's fine. And we haven't yet introduced their wealth care plan. Health insurance walled off into economic classes. If you wanted to see a doctor, you'd be forced to outbid other patients through online auction sites. Profits would be enormous. And purchasing Russian software to run our nuclear codes? Sir, if I may, this country is being deliberately destabilized to allow the council to plunder its resources. When the money is gone, if I may, you're being set up for a fall, sir. What do we do? It is a great honor to lead the free world. And to lead, first we must serve. And one thing I find really interesting is the fact that his face is just blurred out there. And, like, in the last issue we saw him, he was, like, he seemed relatively powerless. Like, there was nothing that he could really do to deal with the council. Like, he was the president, sure, but he had no power. He was completely subject to this 1% that controls the world thing. Just gorgeous 2-page spread. Really love the black and white in this. But anyway, more plot and stuff is advancing. But so the president invites the richest people in the world into the White House, and what's the line? Half of the world's wealth sits in this house, this one room. We are the reason the other half has anything at all. A mistake we are working to rectify. Woo! That is tense. But it's in these moments of, like, being all smiley and lovey-dovey with these rich people that the president is like, you actually see his face. And he gives a speech, and all this stuff. What is power? What good is power if not used? What good is a meal if not eaten? So please eat. True power must be applied. I look around the room at many friends tonight, people I admire, respect, and even envy, or at least tolerate. It's because of you that I'm here, and I won't forget it. I owe you everything, and you'll get what's coming to you. Speaking of power, you've heard of the American football? No, not soccer. I'm not talking about the World Cup, but rather American-style football. The obliteration of the world in one small suitcase. Doesn't get any more American than that. And tonight I want to share that power with you, to the ones to power. It must be applied. Thank you, Gabriel. Enjoy your meal, ladies and gentlemen, as if it were your last. Did he just... some kind of joke. Nicola, come back, join us. What is the meaning of this? We demand an explanation. To rule, first you must serve. Don't you turn your back on us. We own you. After that, anything is possible. And as he says that and walks away, his face gets shrouded in darkness again, and all we see are his white eyes. And then we get the page turn, and we see a little bunny. And the bunny notices something and runs, and the silo opens up, and the fucking missile comes out, and the missiles travel through the air, and we just get a nuclear explosion in the middle of a city. Um, man, that's... And then, like, I love these fake ads. Extinction. Who wants to live forever? Man. It's just tense shit. Other fake ad in this book was wealth care. Taking care of our own. And you got these two women in there, literally, like, portrayed as vampires. It's a solid fucking book, and it's hard to, like, it seems like he goes, okay, satirizing being as ridiculous as I thought, you know, was within taste, didn't, like, seem effective because the world seems crazier. So he makes the most crazy thing anyone could possibly do, which is to knowingly shoot a nuclear missile. And, like, that's ballsy. That is a big move. Shadow Batman, see, that's how you do politics in comics. I mean, yeah, sure. Man, that's a hard thing to look at, though. The idea of someone nuking Washington, D.C. to take out the richest people in the world. Like, what is... I'm curious what his plan is. Clearly this guy is not Trump. He's certainly been used as a Trump allegory, but more in the vein of a rich asshole who wants to rule the world, not in the vein of an incompetent asshole who wants to rule the world. So yeah. Good stuff. Just killed all the richest people in the world, apparently. Interested to see where it goes. What else can I talk about? Still a lot of switching to black and white. I think he just likes the look of it. I'm not sure if there's any real justification for it in this sequence besides that it happens at night in like a dark room. And so maybe just doing this sequence on these pages in black and white as opposed to significant hints of color was just to make it feel more like okay, so if you do a night scene, you usually use a lot of blues or grays, a lot of heavy shadows, and instead of doing that, just really stylize it and do it all in black and white with really, you know, off the page whites. I don't know. It's a intriguing use of... It's an interesting use of color. It catches your eye, definitely. And then there's still the hints of color with, like, sound effects being in color. Yeah. I don't like the stuff on this cover. This is supposed to be Renato's eyes. I don't like this right here. I feel it's distracting from the cover. Just letting you know that this got nominated for awards. That would have been much better served on the back. Also interesting, black cover in a comic where no main characters died, but, you know, hundreds, millions did. Interesting idea. Let's go ahead and move on to Sheena, Queen of the Jungle, number 0. So people are going to probably ask, Ian, why'd you buy this? And there are 2 reasons. One, it is actually 25 cents. That's pretty unbeatable right there. In this day and age, a 25-cent comic book is something rare. The only time you can get a not 25-cent comic, like get something cheaper than 25-cent comic book, is on Free Comic Book Day, and it's usually not going to actually be an issue. But the second reason is Marguerite Bennett is writing this book. I saw her announce this a couple months ago on her Twitter. I'm like, oh, that, I have no idea who that character is, but it looks right up Marguerite Bennett's alley. Super fun adventure, female lead, gorgeous looking, that whole bag of tricks. Let me find the page, because this is the only idea I have. Where is it at? Sheena and Tarzan. Or Tarzan and Sheena, Lords of the Jungle. Apparently is another book that's coming, or it's a volume. Collects issues 1 through 6 by Karana Beko, Star Wars Legacy, and Robert Castro, Red Sonja / Conan. Oh, that's an Alex Ross cover. That's neat. So, let's talk about Tarzan. Because apparently this is, like, female Tarzan. So we're getting rid of Jane. That's interesting. I read the original Tarzan novel a couple of years ago now. I was in the hospital. Didn't read it, listened to it on audiobook. It is one of the most racist things I've ever read. Easily one of the most racist books I've ever laid eyes on. The whole reason that Tarzan is able to survive and thrive in the jungle is not because he's a man. It's because he's a white man of proper breeding. A white British man of proper breeding. I'm not making it up or interpreting. That is literally a line in the book. If it had been any other man of, like, seriously, it's in the book. Something to the effect of, if it had been any other man from any other race, he would have been hopeless to survive from such a young age in the vast wild jungle. But because he came from a British family of proper breeding, he was fully equipped to deal with this kind of environment. Yeah, Shadow Batman says, wow, so the original Tarzan is nothing like the Disney movie? Not even, not by a mile. Imagine that in the Disney movie. Yeah. What's his name in the Langstrom, Greystone, whatever the bad guy in the Disney movie's name is. Like, he's actually in the original book, that character is Tarzan's like cousin or something. And he's not the villain in the book either. Or yeah, whatever. So like Tarzan's like just a blatantly racist book. I wish that him being a white man of British descent with proper breeding was the epitome of the racism in that book. It is not, by a mile. There's a character in that book literally just called the Negress. That is her, like, she has a name, but 9 times out of 10, they referred to him as the Negress. And she is written in the most blatantly racist way ever. To try to remember a line from that, something to the effect of, "Oh, lordy, there are hippopotamuses out there." Not making it up. Not making it up. In the slightest. Apparently, Sheena got a show in the 2000s. That's cool. So I don't know anything about Sheena. This is the first time I'd ever heard about Sheena. And I had no idea she was connected to Tarzan. So I find it interesting, though, to give a book like this to Marguerite Bennett, who is very much out of the closet. Is very socially aware writer, does some great stuff. dealing with race and just subjugation, class politics, stuff like that. So I was like, okay, so she's writing Tarzan, female Tarzan. All right, sure, why not? And this was like a cool, fun issue. I will admit, one thing that like I like it about Bennett's writing, but it is something that is very telling of her writing, and I thought it would be interesting to see something like this with this like whole jungle woman thing. But Bennett likes to do big word balloons of speeches. Like, do I have an issue of Bombshells sitting around here anywhere? Hold on, give me a sec. I'm just going to go grab the most recent issue of Bombshells. Oh, wait, I do have it on my desk, don't I? Yeah. Here's the most recent issue of Bombshells, and I'm just going to flip through some of the pages here and see what I can find. Like, there are tons of speeches in Bombshells, and they go on for pages and pages. And I love the big, triumphant, morally upright, grandstanding speech. I love it to death. It's one of my favorite tropes. That's always cool to see in comics and stuff. And so you just look at some of her dialogue balloons, and they're just filled with words. She uses that stuff constantly. She loves her big speeches. And I love them too. But I thought it would be interesting with her writing a book with a character who lives in the jungle and was raised in the jungle. Obviously, a character like that wouldn't necessarily have those big understandings of morality. But just it would be a much less dialogue-driven kind of comic, right? Just by virtue of the character. And I don't want to say that this is like a particularly wordy book, especially for Bennett. But at the same time, I mean, look at this right here. It's a lot of dialogue. And it's just like, it's that weird thing of like she's off on her own. She has no one to talk to, so she's just describing what she's doing and why she, like the thought process behind some of the stuff she's doing. That's cool. That's fine. And we get like a little preview of her past that's done without dialogue, which I thought was interesting. Without much dialogue. But I was really hoping to see Bennett do some really minimalist dialogue. And I hope that as far as the Sheena character is concerned, that she drops in dialogue a lot, because this is a very much an action issue, and she just is basically thinking out loud. Because she sees what she calls the flying turtle from the outsiders and shoots an arrow at it to shoot it down. It lands in this forbidden temple, and she's thinking to herself, like talking to herself out loud, oh no, it landed there, I should probably go get it, but at the same time I'm not supposed to enter the temple, so what do I do? What's the situation here? Do I let this outsider thing be on sacred ground, or do I go in on sacred ground and break the rules? Well, it's more important to get rid of the outsiders than it is for me to obey the rules. So she enters this temple and sees all these artifacts along the temple walls that shouldn't be there. Like there's a gun, there's some cameras, a knife, safari hat, stuff like that. I will say this is not a very well drawn panel, because I didn't notice what exactly it was she was supposed to be looking at and being shocked by until I looked at it for this review here. When I initially opened this, my eye was drawn first to Sheena, and then to this cool statue with all the vines on it. when the subject of the panel, the thing that she's surprised by, are all these objects along the walls. But she goes over to the objects and picks up a camera and just like, what is this? This shouldn't be here. How did it get here? And she like takes out the film and is holding it up and looking at it. And we just get this great no dialogue moment of a flash of two people. And she's shocked by it and drops the camera. And that's a great moment because that is her remembering what I'm assuming are going to be her parents. That was fairly impressive, and it does very much mirror a scene in the original Tarzan book. Anyway, the temple starts to like attack her with all these traps and stuff as she goes to try to get this, what she calls, flying turtle. It's a drone. Where's that at? I can't find it now. Oh, there we go. Bottom. It's a drone. She tries to go get this flying turtle, and the temple's got all these booby traps, and so she's trying to stop it and get out alive, and she manages it. You know, it's action, skin of her teeth kind of thing. And she destroys the drone. And then I really, really like this ending panel, though. And this ending page spread. Of just this guy sitting in his room in complete shock. He's like, what did I just record? So, like, he's got a drone and he was exploring the jungle with it and recording, or maybe not even him recording. Maybe someone was just exploring the jungle and he was, you know, watching a stream of it while he's eating his noodles. And then he just saw this shit happen with her. He's like, who is this? So, you know, that's, you know, a good catalyst for the story to start. And I don't know, it's an interesting little idea, you know, modern civilization creeping in on the whole jungle life thing. That's cool. I can dig it. We'll see how it goes. Fun issue. I don't know if I'm going to add it to my pull list based on the Zero issue. But again, 25 cents. This is worth picking up just to support that they're selling issues for 25 cents. So yeah, I don't know how I felt about it. I'm a little, like, it's not bad or anything. It's just like, I don't know if this is really great. But I am curious to see what Bennett's going to be doing with it. This whole memory thing of what I'm assuming are going to end up being her parents, I really like the way this is visualized, with it like at the back of her head, seeing this image, and how it's not fully formed, like there's no distinctness between the bodies, they just kind of merge together behind her, the way it's colored like that, it's like actually kind of fading, so it's just this one really particular thing. She can't remember any of the background details, it looks like, because there's no background. I don't know, I really like that. But yeah, if you like the whole adventure action kind of thing, I'm sure this could be interesting to you. It's kind of funny, speaking of the Tarzan Disney movie, there she is running along vines. Otherwise, it's fine. I enjoyed it. Alright. That concludes all the single issues for the week. So, thanks everyone for watching. As I've said, we're doing Trade Talk as its own individual show now, where it's uploaded as well in addition to comic reviews. So you can still find Trade Talk in the normal comic reviews episodes, but now it'll also be double uploaded and stuff like that. I'm a little worried about something with this, so give me a minute to see if I can figure something out, if you don't mind. Show the desktop. Sorry, like I said, I'm still working on this whole screen, this new method of capturing footage and all that stuff. So I'm going to do something a little bit differently. I'm trying to take live interaction with the audience away from trade talk, since that is more, that is less current, and I just want the trade reviews to be more watchable on their own. So I'm going to try to do this in a way that makes sense, but I'm just giving myself a little backup in case this isn't discoverable later. That's all good. Alright, I think I'm good. Yes. Alright. Let's do this. Okay, so I'm going to do the intro to Trade Talk. See everybody in the live comments if you want to bow out. Hey, welcome to another episode of Trade Talk. Today we're here to discuss Black Panther, Back to Africa. This is the next volume in the Reginald Hudlin Black Panther run, and it kind of does what I've been wanting. It takes Black Panther back to Africa. Amazing. It's like the title actually has something to do with what happens in the story. So rare. But anyway, you have the situation that was brewing in the For the Hard Way book, and this, you know, this is a whole another volume to pay that off, but whatever. And that comes to a head, and now T'Challa is back on Earth and heading home, and now he has to deal with that situation, and that's, you know, it's causing a problem for him. The situation has escalated. There's the neighboring country of Naganda, and that has completely deteriorated since T'Challa dethroned their dictator who helped support the effort to overthrow Wakanda. Then he also, like, this is the most context-driven issue of the run, because it's got the stuff from the very beginning, and then it's got consequences for T'Challa taking Cap's side in the Civil War, which is the U.S. government really doesn't like T'Challa now. They haven't liked him since the beginning of the run. But now they feel that they have reason to start, you know, destabilizing and doing things. So they plan to install someone in power in Naganda to act as a distraction to T'Challa, so he's not able to make moves against the U.S. And they install Killmonger, who is a Black Panther villain that T'Challa's never been able to defeat. So Killmonger is not only taking control of this neighboring country to T'Challa, but he's also captured T'Challa's sister. What's her name? It's gonna bother me. Shuri, is it? Yeah, Shuri. Shuri. Anyway, so he's captured her, he's taking control of this neighboring country, and now T'Challa has to deal with all this mess. And he's also captured the current Miss Marvel, who the U.S. sent in when they felt that he was getting out of hand. Interesting. So T'Challa's just got a fucking nightmare to deal with, and also Storm isn't there at the time, which is a problem. Damn it. She's off with the X-Men doing some shit, who knows. Which, like, is really frustrating because, you know, you got The Bride, which was really good. I really liked The Bride. And then you got For the Hard Way, The Bride, then you had Civil War, where she was actually involved in the story. Then you had For the Hard Way and Little Green Men, where she's actually involved in the story, but doesn't really have much to do with the overarching plot. And now you have Back to Africa with this great cover with Storm on the cover, and she's not in this book. And that's disappointing. She's back with the X-Men. Like, I would have preferred her to be back with the X-Men either during the Civil War stuff or during for the hard way stuff, because that doesn't really have much to do with anything in the run. This is a big deal, and I would like her to be by his side in this, because that would be interesting. I like this discussion where, like, they're discussing how they're going to attack this foreign dictator now who has T'Challa's sister, and they're walking through this hangar of all the stealth equipment that Wakanda has confiscated from people that have tried to invade over the years. And T'Challa's security expert, Wakabi, is sitting there like, I cannot believe you have me looking through the elephant graveyard of military transport. I'm just glad I didn't let you talk me into junking it like you suggested. It is a piece of junk. I can't believe it even worked. But it did. The mole man almost stole our vibranium right from under our noses. I can't believe you let him go. Come on, Wakabi, he's already the mole man. What more could we do to him? That is a really good burn on the mole man. In any case, this whole situation with his sister, there's a lot. This is a really well-paced book. I'm only 1.5 issues in. I'm already covering a lot of ground with what's happening. Sure, he gets some badass moments, which is kind of cool. Like, the guy sends a bunch of men into her cell to... They're not even being vague about it. It's like, oh, well, we'll see if you get your chance to take a swing at me, or if these guys do. Well, you know, they all rush in there, and she just fucking literally, she's killing that guy. It's not even a contest. She completely destroys them. So anyway, Gunnan invades and goes to fight this warmonger guy. Not warmonger. What's his name? That's gonna bug. I'm saying that all wrong, and I know it. Killmonger. Goes to fight off this Killmonger guy, and they have a machine that burrows underground to get to him, which is kind of a neat idea. And what I really like about this run, this arc in particular, is we're getting back to the whole idea of Wakanda as a player in world politics. We had all these things building up about, oh, well, the West tries to put Wakanda in a check and blah blah blah, and you know that has stuff to do with what's going on in this. But this is also just really fun. You got the Wakandan army fighting mutant alligators, and that's neat. But you have Killmonger, who has promised, I'll give everyone in this country a flat screen TV and all this stuff, and he feigns like he'll give up power if T'Challa just promises to actually do something for this neighboring country, because Wakanda, of course, very conservative nation. It doesn't involve itself with other nations. Even if you win, will you do anything to help the people of Naganda? No. And why not? Because they aren't your tribe. How primitive is that? Killmonger cares. You may not like my swagger, but at least I help people. It's like, you exploit people, there's a difference. So tell me, T'Challa, if I surrender right now, will you promise to turn Naganda into a technological paradise? Share the riches of Wakanda with your neighbors? And T'Challa's like, you put me into... Stop pretending like you're helpless, Killmonger. You are still armed to the teeth. Release the captives now or I attack. How am I supposed to contact now? Conversation. It's like, can't give up the big prize, huh? Okay, I will call your bluff. If Killmonger will not resist arrest and prosecution for his crimes, I will use my resources to help and improve Naganda. So he's putting this, like, you can't really do that with a lot of other characters. Like, you can't give the whole, oh, Superman could use his powers to save the world speech, to solve all the world's problems speech to Superman. You can't do that so many times. It's like, he's one guy. He can't be responsible for literally everything. That is asking too much. That is going too far. But T'Challa is the leader of a nation. He runs a government next to an impoverished and horrific nation to live in, a nation that's been under dictator after dictator. Why hasn't he helped? It's this idea that, oh, he thinks he's superior, he thinks the Wakandans think they're superior, he doesn't care about you. And so, yeah, this is actually a place where you can critique him on stuff. And so he's put in this position. He's like, fine, prove you care. I don't know, that's a cool move. But of course Killmonger fights him, and it turns into a big brawl to see if, like, oh, can he actually win this time, because he's never defeated Killmonger, blah, 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 blah. The tables of the fight start to turn. There's just a really sad scene that does not need to be here at all, of, like, this gorilla that's having like, they find this experimental area where, like, all this animal testing stuff's been going on, and they find, like, a gorilla with all these wires hooked up to its brain. Literally, its brain's, like, out of its skull, and it can actually talk, and it, like, looks down at the Wakandan soldiers and goes, "Help me, please. What would you have us do? There's only one way to end the pain. It's like, we will do it with mercy." And they just shoot it! Like, goddamn! That's a really dark scene that totally doesn't need to be there. So anyway, T'Challa and Killmonger fight, and there's stuff with the super intelligent baboon. Don't ask. Skrull stuff is coming in. I don't particularly care to talk about that now. The plot element with the cannibal ended in a very underwhelming way that ties in with Secret Invasion, and that disappointed me. So you have the cannibal who was introduced in the first volume, and this is the character that by kissing can jump from body to body and possess them and kill the soul of the body that it's in. And so it started working with the effort Claw did to try to destroy Wakanda. And then when that fell apart, it jumped into T'Challa's cousin. And that's a really, really interesting and intriguing plot point. But then during the wedding, people are starting to look at the cousin who had the ability to sense other spirits and realize there's something going on with this guy, so it jumped to someone else and we didn't know who for a while. In this volume, we reveal that it's jumped to some, servant of the court or whatever, and he's, throughout the book, was trying to talk Shuri into kissing him. Shuri wasn't having it. And he's, like, kind of put in isolation with Brother Voodoo, who's been working to find the cannibal this whole time. And so he goes to try to kill Brother Voodoo. Sorry, disgusting, I know. Goes to try to possess Brother Voodoo, and then it's revealed that Brother Voodoo's been a Skrull this whole time. Crossovers just kill good plot elements. Man, I don't know, I feel like Hudlin kind of let that one sleep for a while though. Anyway, Killmonger's defeated by Miss Marvel, which is interesting. Like, killed by Miss Marvel, and his son swears vengeance on T'Challa for it. And that's pretty much the end of the story. We set up a group that now will is now committed to hating Black Panther. And then we get a single issue called Black to the Future that explains why the Watcher was at Storm and T'Challa's wedding. In this, we get like a time jump to years in the future when Storm and T'Challa are not like ruling the world, but are in effect leading the world as a royal couple. They've gotten Wakanda to the point where it enjoys global influence and is not as isolationist as it once was. And they have children together, and T'Challa's not the Black Panther anymore, it's his daughter now. And that's cool. That's just cool. I really like this scene of Storm discussing the history of Wakanda with her son. And they get into slavery, and this is just gorgeous in like a really disgusting way depiction of the process of slavery, and I thought that was really cool to see. And like she's sitting there talking about what history was like, how Africans sold Africans, that whole thing, and how the Wakandan people thought this can't go on. This is going to cause a regional problem long term, which it did. We've got to do something, but we don't invade other countries. We don't tell the world how to live. But if we don't do something, it's going to be an existential threat to Wakanda. So they start sending agents over to America to buy slaves, bring those slaves that were purchased back to Wakanda, and train them as soldiers to undermine slaving operations. That's awesome. Little shadow war with the colonial empires of the slave trade. That's fucking cool. Man, he nailed it there. That is just great idea. But the colonial powers start to catch on that like these guys have training that they just shouldn't have. These are, as far as they're concerned, savages. They shouldn't know how to do this. So they beat the information out of them and eventually get just the name Wakanda and decide to declare war on Wakanda and send like all these African tribes after Wakanda to try to get them to clear it up for themselves. Kind of completely demolishes them. So then the colonial powers agree to set aside differences and they'll just invade Wakanda together unless this shit stops. And the Black Panther at the time's like, I cannot fight the whole world. It's just not doable. And that's like a really harsh thing, but it's true. Like, it doesn't matter how great one nation is in any given time in history. It's literally impossible to maintain a state if you are constantly at war with every other nation in the world. If you don't believe me, load up a game of Civ and just immediately declare war on everybody. Let me know how that works out for you. Play on hard. You might be a great player and be able to manage it, but then you are taking over those countries, which in reality means you are conquering, you are ruling over others. And Storm has this great point. I gotta see if I can find it real quick. Storm has this great point in this dialogue she's having with her son. Wakanda is not just a nation, it is a culture. If you sacrifice our values to protect the nation, you have already lost. But why the accommodationist stance? We are a warrior people. A warrior is not a bully. Wakanda could have gone to war with the world. Maybe it would have won, maybe it would have lost. But the very act of attacking all of the major Western powers and their puppet states in Africa would require a ruthlessness that would threaten the moral fiber of the nation. Instead, the decision was made to take a long view, even if it took centuries. The world would eventually recognize the Wakandan way is the correct path, and if not, God bless them, for they would not survive. Why? Because man recognizes good? I don't see many examples of that. A true warrior recognizes all of his strengths, and love is the mightiest weapon of all. And she talks about how African culture and non-violent movements changed the wave of history. Huge disagreement with the non-violent movement parts. Very much in agreement with black culture around the world shaping things. How many times has black media been stolen, but changes the world for the better for black artists in the long run anyway. Incredibly fascinating point. And like this idea of take the long view of history, yeah, that's the typical reply to that is, well, the masses are suffering while you sit on moral platitudes. Importantly here, Wakanda has already taken steps to undermine in acts of violence the colonial attitude. They don't immediately decide to take long-term history. They wait till they are threatened with a war of their own to fight and decide, if we cannot declare war on the world and sit on a moral high horse at that point. As disgusting as it might be to watch, as sad as it might be to see, we have to sit back and let them come to the conclusion we've already reached. And this is talked about early on in the run. T'Challa's father has this conversation when he's invited to an economic conference of basically the 1%, and he says the social and spiritual evolution of the West needs to catch up with its technological capabilities before we as Wakandans feel you are on our playing field. And this is very much what's going on here. I really like that. That's an interesting commentary. I don't 100% agree with it, I'll admit. This is the thing. This is a philosophy that is very appealing for obvious reasons. But that is a political philosophy that's worrisome, that's troublesome, and it is something you have to wonder and think about. And it's asking you to be critical here. That is what Storm's son provides the role of in this issue, and is the critical stance of like, well, you're a warrior nation. You believe in doing the right thing no matter what. Why wouldn't you take that fight? Because if you take a fight to destroy the world, if you take a fight that threatens the world, threatens your nation, you probably don't deserve to have a nation. That's an interesting and intriguing argument about the benefit or the notion of being able to restrain yourself and step to the side no matter how disgusted you are. The right to self-determination in other nations is a thing, and it should on some level be recognized. It's a very intriguing little piece here. There's some more history given about how Wakanda got to the place it did. It all kind of led up in a war with the U.S. Iron Man fought against Wakanda, and T'Challa was ready for him with a Panther Panther Zord, and so they fought, and T'Challa ended up, completely destroying. He was ready for Tony, but unfortunately, he didn't realize how integral Tony was connected to his machine, and so it killed him, and T'Challa felt really bad about it. Yeah, there's some interesting ideas here. And this is all kind of concluded as the Watcher thinking or discussing with the the golden frogs of King Solomon, and they're like, oh, well, it's only a possible future anyhow. Alright, we should get back home to King Solomon. And they're the golden frogs. Interesting idea. Solid issue, arc. I'm just glad that we're back to what feels like the main story. And with only a couple volumes left, 3 it looks like, I'm really worried that we're going to... It looks like the next volume deals with the Skrull stuff, so this might be what we're left with. This might be the spiritual conclusion of the run, which is disappointing. I don't know, this run has had its ups and downs. It's never been bad, I don't want to give that impression, but there are some points at which I'm like, this just got so derailed by comic book continuity stuff that it really lost its, I feel it lost its path at a couple points. But still, it's always been fun to read, if nothing else. Alright, that'll do it for this week's this episode of Trade Talk. Thank you very much for watching. Until next time, see ya. And for everyone that stuck around through comic reviews, thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed this episode of Comic Reviews. Bye. Awkward, gonna take a minute to shut everything down. How do I do this? There's gotta be a way to shut it all off.